Debbie Bienenfeld, president of Emunah of America. Emunah is one of the largest social network agencies in Israel. And to name just a few of our projects, we have 5 residential children's homes, counseling and crisis centers around the country, daycares, and a new women's shelter, the first of its kind in Israel. Today, all donations will be doubled and all gifts matter. Thank you again for helping us help the 10,000 Israelis that Emunah serves daily.
Thank you, Debbie. And now it is with great pleasure and admiration that I now introduce Beatie Deutsch. Everyone knows Beatie, the marathon mother and the Israeli national champion in the marathon and half marathon. Beatie is a mother of 5 young children. She has a very supportive husband, and she has learned to apply her training to real life, the marathon of life. Beatie took up running just about 5 years ago and recently went pro. More than anything else, her journey has empowered her to dream big and keep pushing, something that we all need to do every day, a message Beatie is passionate about and sharing with other women and men who are on here this afternoon. I'd like to welcome Beatie. You're an inspiration, and for me personally as well, and we thank you for joining us today. Without further ado, we present Beatie Deutsch.
Thank you so much for having me. It really is an incredible honor and privilege to kick off your 36-hour fundraising campaign. And I can't think of a better organization that I get to speak on behalf of. First of all, because I live in Israel, so I'm obviously very connected to Israel. Second of all, I love it's Emunah of women, and if there's anything that I strive to represent, it's the power of women and the power that we have when we come together and how much we can accomplish, each of us individually, but also collectively. And Emunah, that's my message. It's funny, you think as a professional marathon runner, after 5 years of running, I tell you all about, how I got stronger and how I got faster and all the things I learned in my form and technique and nutrition. If I had to tell you one thing, the thing I've gained the most on my running journey, more than anything else, I think running has really strengthened my Emunah. It has allowed me really to understand and tap into the incredible strength that we each have within us. And I always say it's possible, really, we could go our whole life not truly even aware of the strengths and gifts and talents that we possess. And the fascinating thing is that actually the Hebrew word for Emunah has the same word as the same root as the word imud, training. Every time I go for a workout, imud, they're connected, they're interconnected, because I always like to say, Emunah is a muscle. It's a muscle that you build over time. And if you're trying to build a muscle, so when you go to the gym and you want to get stronger, you're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to put too much weight on because, it's too heavy. I'm not sure I can do this. No, you're going to put the weight on that you need. You're going to add resistance so that you can build those muscles, so that your muscles are forced to develop and respond and get stronger as a result. And over time, by going through that training, by going through the process of adding resistance, you can be able to increase it, and you can withstand even heavier amounts, and you get stronger. And our lives are the same way. We build that internal muscle of Emunah, which really means cementing our relationship with Hashem, which requires a deep understanding and knowledge that God runs the world, that everything he does is perfectly planned out for me. He has a plan for every single one of us here. And whatever he sends me in my life is exactly what I need right now to become the best version of myself. And you know what? We can only learn to internalize those things by going through the resistance, by going through the heavy, by putting on the heavy weight, by experiencing things that push us, that force us to step out of our comfort zone, that are challenging, that are difficult, and that are scary, that test us in ways we might not want. But only by going through each of those things do we build that muscle of Emunah. And you know what? I have seen so much, If I had told you what I was like 5 years ago, I'm a type A person. I like to control everything. And when things don't go the way I planned, I have a really hard time accepting it. And many of us are like that. We don't like to let go of control. And only by repeatedly going through the process of reminding myself, Hashem is in the driver's seat. God is in charge. I am going to surrender and let go. And saying it over and over and over again. Did it get easier? But it was a process, and it required training, and it required me growing and working on myself, the same way that every Emunah, every training we go through allows us to build more trust in ourselves. That's the most incredible part of running, that you start off not sure what you're capable of, what you can achieve. You set a goal, you have no idea if you're going to be able to do it. And then you go through the journey of training, and you put in the work and the consistency. And then the day of the race comes, and you get to head on, face that goal, and suddenly uncover the strength inside that you never knew you had before. So I want to share with you today 3 marathons of mine, because like I said, every marathon is such an incredible metaphor for life. Running is what teaches me Emunah. It's what allows me to become the best version of myself. So I want to share 3 insights from each of these marathons. Maybe we'll have time for 4, we'll see. I've run 8 marathons total. And hopefully they will give you tools for incorporating and strengthening your own faith, your own relationship with Hashem, and allowing you to become the best version of yourself. So if I said, if I told you if you had told me 5 years ago that I'd be sitting here today saying, hi, I'm Israel's national marathon champion, I am training for the 2022 World Championships, I would have laughed in your face. Because 5 years ago, I wasn't running at all. The most running I was doing was after my 4 kids around the couch. And I was really out of shape, and I wanted to change something. I knew I had to. Now, I think we all experience moments in our life where we're like, okay, something has to change. But we can say that for weeks and months before we do anything. And I finally announced this dramatic goal to my husband. I said, that's it. I'm going to run a marathon. And people always laugh at me when I tell them that, you weren't exercising at all. Why'd you choose a marathon so huge, 26.2 miles? Why not pick a 5K? And I'll tell you, the secret to any growth in life is knowing yourself first. And I knew that what I wanted most at the time is consistency. I wanted to be someone who got out the door and exercises 4 times a week. And you know what? Nothing was working to motivate me. And I realized that, I knew also I am naturally athletic. I always did love sports. It was just that I couldn't seem to find the time to do it as a busy working mother. And so I said, even if I pick a 5K, a 10K, even a half marathon, I can show up and wing it. But no one shows up to the start line of a marathon without training for it. So if I sign up for a marathon, that's going to obligate me to get out the door. And it was true. I signed up and I gave myself 4 months to train for it. I'm very lucky that my husband, when I said to him, I want to run a marathon, didn't tell me, you're crazy, Beatie. He said, yes, let's do it. And I always say that it's just so important to have friends and mentors who believe in you, because so often we don't actually realize and appreciate how capable we are, how much strength we have. We get so caught up in the here and now, we can't possibly imagine things being different. We don't even recognize our greatness. And I needed my husband to say, yeah, go for it, because that was what gave me the extra boost of encouragement. And we started training, and I gave myself 4 months. And I remember when I signed up for the Tel Aviv 2016 marathon, my husband said to me, how long do you think it's going to take you? Do you think you can run in 4.5 hours? I was doing the math in my head, 26.2 miles, 4.5 hours. I'm like, no, way too fast. I can't run 10 minutes per mile for 26.2 miles. So my husband's like, I'll put down 4:40. He humored me. Fast forward 1 month before the race, and I'm feeling good, and my training's been going well. And now my husband says to me, he's like, listen, Beatie, you don't want to just cross the finish line of the marathon. You want to know when you cross the finish line that you gave it your all. And I remember looking at him like insulted, like, are you kidding? Isn't this giving it my all? Like, what more do you want from me? Like, I haven't run any race in my life. I'm going to run 26.2 miles. It's enough for me just to finish. That's it. Right? And my husband's like, no. You really want to know that you did the best possible time you could. I'm like, no, actually I don't. Like, I just want to know that I finished. Like, I don't even know if I could finish this thing, right? And he's like, no, listen, why don't you go out, run a half marathon time trial, see what you could do in half the distance. We'll plug that into a race predictor and it will tell you what you should be capable of in the full marathon. I was really reluctant, but my husband pretty much didn't give me a choice. So I go to Gan Soccer Park in Jerusalem, run 13 laps around the park by myself and come back. And I told my husband, listen, it took me an hour and 41 minutes. And he said to me, Beatie, you should be able to run the full marathon in 3.5 hours. And I remember when he said that, I was like, you're nuts. That's insane. There's no way I'm doing it. You're telling me I'm going to be able to run a distance I've never run before in my life at a pace I was not ever running. I was never running 8-minute miles on my training runs. It just seemed illogical. And not only that, it was taking a huge risk, because I don't know how many of you here are runners, but the number one mistake that amateur runners make is they start out too fast. You know why? Your feet always feel amazing at the start line, all that energy and adrenaline, and they haven't taken a step. So of course you feel good. But then what happens? You come to mile 20 and you hit that wall. And suddenly, not only are you not finishing in time, you're not even sure you're going to make it at all. So why would I take that risk? All I want to do is finish the marathon. Why risk it? Well, my husband was like not giving up so fast. He bought me a running watch and he told me, you don't have to start out at 8-minute mile. You could start out a little bit slower and get progressively faster every mile. And he's like, I'm going to set it. He programmed it literally that it would beep if I went too fast or too slow. And, gave me the watch and said, like, you got this. You could do it. I remember standing at the start line, like feeling terrified. Like I just have no idea. And it feels like almost like I'm setting myself up for failure. And the race starts and my eyes are just glued to my watch. Like, am I on pace? Am I on pace? Am I on pace? Halfway through the race, surprisingly, I was actually feeling pretty good. I was like, wait, I think I can even pick it up. 5 miles to the finish line. All my kids were there, standing, cheering me on with signs. And you know what? I have shared this story like hundreds of times at this point, but I still get emotional every time I share because I just literally had no idea what was in store for me. And that was the beginning of opening up this incredible path of growth. And my husband ran the last 5 miles with me. And at this point, I was passing every single person on the course. And I crossed the finish line, which 4 months before, I didn't think I could do in 4.5 hours. I crossed the finish line in 3 hours and 27 minutes. And the reason that I feel it's so important to share this story is because if I had not taken that risk and done something that was scary, uncomfortable, unknown for me, I might not be sitting here today at all. I might never have revealed this incredible gift of running that I had. Because, I recognize most people don't sign up for their first marathon and then run a 3:27. Turns out it was a Boston qualifying time, and I was actually the 6th woman on the course. But I realized, wow, Hashem has given me a gift of speed. I'm good at this. But I only revealed that gift because I was put in a situation that forced me to step out of my comfort zone. And that's why I always say the greatest growth in life happens when we step out of our comfort zone. And you know what else? It crystallized something that I had learned my entire life, and maybe you've learned too, but I never understood it until I physically experienced it. And that's what I talked about earlier. The concept of nisayon, of tests. God sends us tests throughout life. We know early on, our forefather Abraham was tested 10 times. Why does God send us tests? He's not like a teacher who needs to know our marks, how well we know the information. God knows the outcome even before we go through it. The test, Nachmanides explains, is for our benefit. And the words he uses, lehavi min hakoach el poal, to bring out our potential to action. And if we can incorporate this mindset through every challenge we face in life, we will go through those challenges with Emunah, with the knowledge that God is sending me this test to help me reveal something about myself that I didn't know before, to help me uncover a gift and strength I had inside that might have been laying dormant for many years, but only by going through the experiences that push us up against a wall, that test us in ways we would never want to be tested, do we reveal those strengths we have. And that is switching our perspective to a growth mindset. And that is what allows us to go through the test of life with faith, and strengthens and deepens our connection with God. Because you can just, it's like when you internalize that and you start to look for it, it's almost mind-blowing when you realize, wow, God really knows me well, and he knew I needed this. I might have been kicking and screaming through it, but I needed it to become me. That was my first marathon that opened up a door in so many ways in life. Now I want to take you to the marathon that changed my career path, because until 2019, I was a regular, from mom of 5. I worked for a large Jewish organization, helping hundreds of students come to Israel every year. I was not a professional runner. And in the end of 2018, I decided to get a little bit more serious and train for the Tavarian National Championship race with a group of runners in Jerusalem and with a coach. And for the first time in my life, I was, putting in a lot of work, training even higher mileage than I ever had before, running with a lot, with really strong group of people. And I saw myself progressing. Every week I'd be able to run faster than I had thought I could the week before. So much so that the week before the race, I remember our coaches giving everyone on the team race day plans, what we're supposed to do on the day of the marathon, how we're supposed to execute our race. And she said to me, and it was almost a shock that she said this, because my coach has been on the running scene for years. She said, listen, Beatie, I know all the women who are signed up for Tavarian Marathon. I know what they're capable of, and I know what you're capable of. You've got this. The race is yours. You're going to be crowned the next national champion. All you have to do is run a 6:26-minute mile for 26.2 miles. And if you do that, you'll have a 2:48 marathon. That should give you the win. So I thought, great, amazing. But then another thought popped into my head. And at that point, I realized that the 2016 Olympic qualification standard for women in the marathon was 2:45. And I'm like, wait, I'm pretty close. Maybe I can qualify for the Olympics. Not that I had ever dreamed in my life about the Olympics, but suddenly it dawned on me. So I asked my coach, do you think I can try and run a 2:45 marathon? And she said to me, if you go faster before the 20-mile mark, oy vavoy lach, like, woe to you, don't do it, don't try. And she's like, I think you have a 2:48 marathon, but you're pushing it. It's a huge jump from where you are, so don't be too greedy. Okay, I took her advice, and I remember thinking, how much faster would I have to run in the final 6 miles of the marathon to cut 3 minutes off my time? Like crazy calculation, not happening. Day of the race comes. It's a beautiful day in Tavaria, and the race starts, and everything is going perfectly according to plan. It feels like a dream. I feel like I'm dancing. I always say exercise is not a punishment of our body. It's a celebration of this miracle. We are walking miracles. When you live with that knowledge of the gift that every day of life is, it's profoundly transformative in how you relate to Hashem. And I was singing the words of a song, Kol Atzmotai Tomarna, like all the limbs of my body will say, Hashem mi kamocha, God, who is like you? And the race is just flowing. We're clicking off the miles, and I'm smiling away because here I am about to become the national champion. And all of a sudden, I see on the other side of the course, already coming back, because this race is just there and right back, I see another woman. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. Who is she and where did she come from? I'm like, she wasn't at the start line. I didn't see her there. She wasn't on the list of participants. My coach didn't know about her. So I think, okay, maybe she's not Israeli. And I look a little closer, and she is Israeli. And not only that, I recognize her. She's run a 2:38 marathon this year. She's like one of the fastest times in Israel ever. And she's ahead of me. So there goes my race, right? I might as well give up now. For a second, my heart sinks and I'm disappointed. And then a second later, I have another thought in my head. And I say, this is something that I had been meditating on every time I'd go through a difficult workout. I said, if we recognize that we have Tselem Elokim, a piece of God within us, and Hashem is infinite, we are connected to infinity, and there are no limits to what we can achieve. So the words I said in my head at that moment were, Hashem is with me every step of the way, and anything is possible. And someone actually made me a bracelet. It's now my mantra. And I'm telling you now, I know the outcome. But in that moment, I had no idea. And not only that, all odds are against me. And all of us, I think, have been in situations in life where it feels hopeless, where it seems impossible. And in those moments, you always have a choice to hold on to hope, to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because he is infinite. There is nothing too big or too small for him. There is no limit to what he can do for us. That is Emunah, to live your life with that understanding. And I chose to make that decision. I chose hope. I chose to believe. And then I said to at the halfway point, I knew that my coach had warned us, do not go faster at the halfway point because you still have another 13 miles to go. Who says you're going to be able to keep it up? And I ignored her. And I remember telling all the guys that I was running with, who trained with me weekly, I was like, peace out, guys. I got to go catch up to that lady. And they told me after, they're like, we wanted to run after you and grab you, but we couldn't touch you. So we didn't. So I was running for dear life. And in one ear, I have the voice of my coach yelling, Ayla, what are you doing? You're going to blow up. There's no way you can keep up this pace for 13 miles. And in my other ear, I have my own voice saying, Hashem is with me every step of the way, and anything is possible. And you know what? I chose to let that voice get louder and louder and louder. And I always say, belief propels us forward and fear holds us back. And so often it's our own fears that prevent us from achieving what is possible for ourselves. And when we believe in ourselves and believe in Hashem, who's given us the strength, there's no limit to what you can achieve. And I keep running, and I'm just like running running with all my heart and soul. And suddenly I hear cheers from the other side, people saying, Yelena, she's not so far ahead. That's the lady I'm trying to catch. Sure enough, I look ahead, there she is. So I run down the hill and I land right behind her back. And now I think all I need to do is stick with her for another, till about 200 meters to the finish line. And then I'll give that final sprint. I've got a really good kick and I've regained the national championship. It's mine. And after 2 minutes, she turned to me and she said, Ani Gemura, I'm finished. It's your race. Keep running. She was an amazing sport. And she saw that today wasn't her day. She wasn't feeling as good as she thought she would be. And she saw that I was feeling pretty good. And she encouraged me to keep running. And you know what? I had secretly set my watch to tell me if I was on pace for that 2:45 time, the Olympic qualifying time. And now my watch is telling me that I'm running 2:43. And then I remember thinking, I just need to get to see my kids. And I was blowing kisses to them when I ran across the finish line. I promise you, I have never crossed a marathon finish line feeling so good. It was the most mind-blowing experience. I cut 6 minutes off my time. I ran 6 minutes faster in the second half of the marathon. It was not only that, it was the personal best for me. It was the fastest half marathon I've ever run in the second half of the marathon. Pretty much unheard of. And I will tell you what my coach today said to me. My coach was actually a judge on the course then. He wasn't my coach. And he's a proud atheist. Doesn't believe in God. When we started working together, he was super hesitant. But this is what he said to me. He's like, I looked at all your training leading up to Tiberia, all the workouts you ran, all the times, everything. He said, there is no physiological explanation for how you ran the way you did. It was a miracle. Those were his words, not mine. But I always say, when you open the door for Hashem in your life, when you live your life holding God's hand every step of the way, Hashem opens the doors for you and you will see them. Miracles, big, small, revealed, hidden. Hashem is waiting for you to just invite him into your life. I want to end off with my most recent marathon that really perhaps was the most challenging test for me in terms of Emunah, but also the most incredible opportunity to really embody what it means to live with faith. I wanted to run for Israel in the Olympics this summer. And unfortunately, for 2 reasons, I was not able to. Number one, the marathon was moved to Shabbat. And number two, I actually did not quite make it to the new standard, which was 2 29:30. To qualify for Tokyo, I needed to run that time. That's basically a 5:40 mile for 26.2 miles. I ran a 2:31, and I realized because Shabbat was anyways the issue, I was going to wait for the World Championships, which is this summer. So I trained all summer long this summer to qualify for the World Championships. And my goal was the Berlin Marathon. Berlin is the world's fastest course. The world record has been set there. It's an incredible race. And I was so excited by the opportunity to, come back to Berlin, the place of the Holocaust, and run proudly through the streets as a visibly observant Jewish woman with Israel on my chest, and cross the marathon finishes at the Brandenburg Gate, where Hitler stood and made speeches saying, I'm going to annihilate the Jewish people. Like, what greater revenge is there to be running through that gate proudly on Yisrael Chai? And I was in the shape of my life. Let me tell you, I've never been fitter. I was 100% confident I am going to run that race. And, not only do the 2:29:30, I was going to run 2:28. The race was over Sukkot, and I left my family just for Shabbat and Sunday to be in Berlin. I had a beautiful Shabbos. I got to experience the Berlin community, and then the race came. And remember, it was a clear morning in Berlin. All the energy, all the excitement. I've been visualizing this race for like a year and a half now. And we start running, and the first half of the marathon is perfect. I run a 1:14:30. I am perfectly on pace. And I'm smiling as I cross the halfway point. And then 2 kilometers into the second half of the marathon, I felt like I just spontaneously combusted. Like, literally, it's like my body screeched to a halt. And suddenly I can barely run. I can barely move. I don't know what's happening to me, but I know something's wrong. And I have 2 choices. I can either just, cut it short and quit, or I can continue to run knowing that I am not achieving the qualifying standard, but also knowing that perhaps I am still doing something by running through the streets of Berlin as this proudly Orthodox Jewish woman. And I remember, thinking in my head, like, this run was supposed to be it's Sukkot. Sukkot has this incredible power of shira, of song. Song is the greatest expression of our connection to God. And I had felt like this marathon was going to be my shira, my song, and praising God's glory. And then here I am, I have this moment where I'm like, but God, this isn't how it was supposed to be. This isn't how I visualized it. This isn't what I imagined. Like, this is not the glorifying race that I was all set up to do. I can barely move, and I'm not even running close to my standard. And I said, you know what? Sometimes perhaps the greatest shira in life we could ever sing is when we surrender control and we say, God, you're in charge. You run the world. I'm in your hands, and I'm letting go. And I am accepting whatever you send my way with love, because I know it's from you and I know it's for my best. Even if I don't understand it, even if it's not easy, even if it's not what I wanted, with all of it, I accept it. I finished the marathon, barely. I collapsed at the finish line. I ran at 2:44. And it turns out I was sick with Corona. And the one day in my entire career, I was vaccinated, double vaccinated. I didn't get Corona for 2 years. And the one day that it mattered, and it's still hard to share, tests are not easy, but they allow you, that was what Hashem sent to me, and I accepted it. And perhaps more than any other marathon I've run, in certain ways, it's the one that I cherish closest to my heart, because when I win a race, really, I can't take credit for it. I do the hard work, but the outcome's in God's hands. He's the one who gave me the strength. But here, my choice to accept what was hard for me with love and say, Hashem, I accept it. It's all mine. And it's the only thing, the choices we make here on this earth are the only thing that are truly eternal. They're what define our character. They're what's part of our soul. They're the precious diamonds that we take with us to the next world. So if anything, it's the marathon that I'm the most proud of. And I just want to end off here tonight like, as well, it's not night for you, all of you, but we're not really ending. We're starting an incredible 36 hours to raise money for an organization that does so much for the Jewish people in Israel, that calls on our strength as women and that celebrates our Emunah. And I hope that every one of you here can donate, can ask your friends to donate, can share, because we can only accomplish what we accomplish when we come together. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. And God willing, I have not given up on my dream. I hope I'm still training to hit that qualifying time of 2:29:30. I believe 100% Hashem will get me there, and I will be in Eugene this summer, 2022, to represent Israel in the World Championships. Be'ezrat Hashem, with Siyata Dishmai, with God's hand.